And captions are on?
Yep, captions are on.
Good.
We are, and the sound is actually on now. So
Woo!
good job. Hi, everybody. Oh, I thought I cleared that. I'm sorry, folks. We're trying to get this really not cool thing off of the screen here.
Yeah. It just came on, like, right before we were about to start talking. And we're like, oh, that's yucky. We don't like that.
So give me a second. Sarah, do you want to kind of talk about what
hi,
we're
guys.
doing tonight?
Welcome to Love is Being Stupid Together, the Love is Being Stupid Together show. So we've been talking the last couple of weeks about different things that have happened in our 12 and a half year marriage, 16 and a half year relationship. And last week we spent some time talking about grief, part one of grief, talking about those that we have lost, specifically family, like close family members and friends that have passed away, and how that impacted our relationship and like how we dealt with it as a couple. Still trying to get that sentence off the screen.
Yeah, I actually
Sorry,
don't know
guys.
how to get rid of this. So if anyone out there watching is familiar with how to do this, yeah.
Not the
that'd be great.
greatest first chat sentence to open the show with. Sorry. Trying to get rid of it. So tonight is part two of the grief. I'm not going to call it a series because it ends with tonight. It's a two-part deal. And we're going to be talking about our miscarriage. Because that is something that takes up a whole show, talking about that. So we have been married, as I said, for 12 and a half years. And we didn't start trying for kids until we had been married for 9 years. We'd always talked about kids. We always knew we wanted to have kids. I at one point wanted 4. I realize now that that's kind of crazy. If props to those of you who have 3, 4, 5 more kids. I mean, for real. Like, I'm struggling with 1. Not struggling, but like being a mom to 1 is hard. So props to you who are actually parents to multiple, more than 2 kids. Bobby did not want 4. He was like, no, I'm good. He's like, no, you're crazy. And so we settled on, we wanted to have 2. And we just kind of waited for a while. Still trying to figure things out. Waited for a while. We with it, I don't know, I'd say about maybe 4 or 5 years after we got married, friends, he's just gonna erase it by making it scroll up. We're getting married, we're starting to have babies, and we still weren't having baby. It's still there. Jeez. How high does this thing go? No, it is not gone yet. And one more. There we go.
There you go.
There we go.
Bye.
So, yeah, we weren't really in a place for a long time where we felt like we would be able to provide a life that a child deserved. Part of it was we'd always talked about waiting a while anyway. Time
out. Ready? I already did it. Okay. So
Zach Morris is back, friends.
I'll talk about 2 things. And these are really the only 2 things I'm probably going to talk about because this is mostly going to be about you today. There's a right and a wrong time to have a kid. I don't care how many times people say, "Oh, there's never a right time." There's definitely a wrong time to have kids. Okay, so there probably are better times than others to have kids, and we waited, and I don't want it to sound like, oh well, if you can't do this, that, and the other, right? Because those things are our subjective values of what we wanted to, the kind of life that we want to provide for Lucas. But that said, we wanted to be able to provide certain things for him, and so we waited until we're capable of doing that.
More than anything, we strongly felt that if we, after paying our bills and providing our basic needs for us and the dog, because we did get Nemo a year and a half into our marriage, kind of to curb the baby fever, but also because we wanted a dog. So once all of those like basic needs and bills were met, we kind of felt like if we didn't have extra money that we would need to buy diapers, to buy formula if that were something we had to do, we were really concerned about providing any kind of a life for a child. Plus, we always talked about waiting a while, being married for a while before having kids anyway. We kind of talked about 5 years.
And I am ultimately glad that like we did wait, because
totally.
we've done a lot of things in that time that we wouldn't have otherwise been able to do.
Right. Now, I will say that having waited unintentionally 12 years, just shy of 12 years, to actually have a baby, I think it did make the transition to like no more spontaneous life a lot harder, because we had that life for so long. I mean, within reason. Of course, we have 2 dogs. You can't be completely spontaneous with dogs. So there were definitely times, I think probably around, I don't know, 7 years, 6-7 years of marriage, we started talking a lot more seriously about kids, because our professional and financial life was getting more stable. I mean, yeah, we had talked about it, and there came a point where I really felt like God was trying to tell me that I shouldn't have children, because every single time we would be like, all right, we're ready to start trying, something catastrophic would happen. The first time we went on a car cruise, our first car cruise, and Bobby's car engine blew up. So that was like, yeah, no, can't have a baby when we're trying to like spend a lot of money to fix that.
It wasn't cheap.
No. I can't remember all the things that would come up when we started talking about trying. But the last like catastrophic thing was his accident, which I mentioned a few weeks ago. He was in a really bad car accident about 6 years ago. And so obviously we had to put a huge pause on trying or thinking about trying, because he lost his job. He was he was recovering from a pretty serious accident. We needed to get our ducks in a row. So we decided in 2017 that we were kind of ready to start looking for a house. We were in a townhouse. We're, on the path to starting a family, and thought,
well, thanks.
That we should also buy a house. We should start trying for a baby, and we should buy a house, like at the same time.
2 totally sane things, by the way,
Yep.
that we should always do at the same time.
Yes. 2 of the least stressful things you can do in your life. You should do them at the same time. So started the house looking at houses, put in offers, got denied, put our house in the market. It was a really long stretch of time, because there was a really bad hailstorm right as we put our house on the market.
What a mess.
It was a hot mess. The buyers' financing kept falling through. They were being really finicky about the repairs on our house.
The lender, not the buyers.
The buyer's lender, right? So anyway, so in the middle of all of this, we were supposed to close on July 28th, 2017. That got postponed. I happened to be ovulating. 2 weeks later, I'm pregnant. And we're like, whoa, like, that was quick. I was 35. I was about to turn 35.
So here's the thing, folks. We were getting ready to move. We were packing up our house. We were trying to save money for our down payment, because we were, we knew we were going to get there, but we knew we had to be conservative. We didn't have a whole lot else to do.
True. We were like, hanging out with friends and stuff, but we weren't going out really.
She says that sometimes.
Yeah. So found out we were pregnant, announced to our friends on my birthday, super excited. And a couple weeks later, my best friend found out she was pregnant, which was like amazing because she was like the one person that I wanted. If I was going to be pregnant with anybody in this world, it would have been her. So we're pregnant, we're moving. Everyone's being real like delicate around me, not letting me move anything heavy. Still kind of processing the whole thing. And I mean, I was turning 35. I didn't know how long it would take me to get pregnant because we had never tried before. So I didn't know. And one time. So then I was like 7 weeks pregnant and we went to a wedding, an out-of-town wedding. Yeah, and had a great time. I had some spotting, but it was like minuscule, one-time thing. And I did feel kind of weird over the weekend, like something I just didn't feel right.
And this is stuff that you didn't actually tell me about at the time.
I didn't feel great when we were there. I didn't feel spectacular, but I was just trying to have fun. I thought it was because I was drinking way too much root beer because we were going to breweries and that's like all I could drink. And just had too much sugar, whatever. So we get back from this wedding, we go to our an intake appointment, which is at 8 weeks pregnant typically, and they just ask you a bunch of questions. And they asked about any concerns, and I mentioned that I had spotting. So she said, well, let's schedule an ultrasound just to be safe, because you are of advanced maternal age / geriatric age / all of the terrible terms they call pregnancies of women who are 35 or older. So at 9 weeks pregnant, we went in for an ultrasound. And first of all, my uterus is tilted backwards, so it was not the best experience.
Retroverted. I don't know if any medical folks out there know what that means, but
yep, it's like backwards. It goes inward. So when you are pregnant, like you don't necessarily show as quickly because it like grows in and then it pops out. So anyway. So I had to do transvaginal ultrasound, which is super fun. And I'm looking at the screen and I see that the measurement is 7 weeks 1 day. And I'm 9 weeks and 4 days in my head, like according to my period. So I was a little bit confused because that didn't match up. And then she just kept saying, she said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And we're like, that doesn't sound good at all. And we're like, okay. I think, did she say there was no heartbeat?
Yeah.
She did say there's no heartbeat.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. And I'm like, what? And so at this point, they want you to meet with a doctor, with an OBGYN. And they were like, well, we can make an appointment. You can come back next week. We can see if the on-call doctor is available. So by some miracle, she was available. And so we got to go talk to her right away because they don't want to make you wait too long to like discuss your options. So we sat down with her and she came in and she said, let me just tell you right away, this had nothing to do with your age. Because women over 35 think that it's because we're over 35, and that's why.
And then she said the only funny thing that whole day.
Yes. She said, quite frankly, you could have gone skydiving while doing cocaine, and I would tell you as your doctor to stop doing that, but I would also tell you that's not why you had a miscarriage. Or that's not why the heartbeat stopped. So I believe that this is what they call a missed miscarriage. I didn't have any bleeding. I didn't go through the miscarriage process. So I thought I was still pregnant when the heartbeat stopped 2 weeks earlier. I had 3 options. This is a Tuesday that this happened. 3 options. I could just wait and let the miscarriage happen naturally. I could have a DNC, which is a outpatient procedure to remove the tissue, or I could take this medication, which I actually don't remember what it's called now. I don't think I ever actually knew what it was called. Where I had to insert these tablets vaginally to basically trigger contractions, which would cause my uterus to just push the tissue out, cause a miscarriage, basically. And I'm sitting there and we're talking about it, and I'm still kind of in shock about what's happening. Like I know what's happening, but I'm still kind of like, well. And I said, like, this is gonna sound terrible because I just found out that I don't have a baby anymore.
And at this point, here's the thing. This was a really weird point for us because we were neither of us had really kind of processed what had happened yet. This is what, a half hour?
Like right
afterwards, right? Mm-hmm. And neither of us had really kind of processed it. And we're just both sitting here like calm, normal, the most rational we can be at the time.
Right. And I said, this weekend, like, we don't have any plans this weekend. And I realized that, like, I said, it sounds terrible that I'm kind of, like, doing this for the convenience factor of it, but I don't really want to have a procedure. So I guess if I don't naturally miscarry by Friday, then I'll just get the medication Friday and do it Friday night. And then he'll have it happen over the weekend and, like, take Monday off or whatever. So, and the doctor's like, no, it hasn't happened yet. So, yeah, do it when you think you have the time to physically go through the process. Because it's terrible. So I went to work the next day because I was still kind of in shock. I told my coworkers, like, I'm just letting you know this happened. I'm coming in tomorrow because I need to keep busy. I can't think about it right now. It hasn't happened yet. And, like, they were all devastated. And I came into work, and, like, one of them wanted to give me a hug. And I said, no, I don't want a hug. Because I needed to, like, keep it together until until it actually happened.
And so this is one of those areas where you and I differed greatly.
Yes.
And the obvious physical difference was that you were still carrying... Gus. Okay. So we'll talk about Gus in a second.
Gus.
But you were still carrying Gus. Obviously I hadn't been. And so that was a big difference for me. So immediately for me, when I got home, that's when it started for me. For you, that process started, didn't start until the weekend, really. Yeah. Let's stop for a second, though, and explain Gus.
So, this is also kind of a endearing part of our story. When we got pregnant, before we always, couples, before they even find out what the gender is, whether they find out before or after the baby's born, usually have like a fake name to call their baby while they're carrying it until they can give it a name. And I had a dream.
We've had some pretty silly ones for friends. Or we've had friends that have had some pretty silly ones.
Yeah. And so I had a dream, like, I don't know, over the summer, that we had a baby girl, and Bobby insisted that we named it Gus. Her, Gus. I'm like, that's such a weird thing. So when we got pregnant, we obviously didn't know if the baby was a boy or a girl, and we're like, well, we're gonna call it Gus, because why not? So
if you hear us refer to Gus, that would be the fetus that we lost.
And
which is why he's hanging out over
there.
And
a friend of ours, my best friend, that Christmas?
Yeah.
I don't even remember. That Christmas, bought me this Gus figurine. So anyway, you processed it like right away.
I took the following couple of days off, like through the next week, because I knew that that's what I needed. I knew that that's when I was going to start for me. If you were here hanging out with us last week, you know that Sarah and I have both been through loss before, and so we kind of have a sense of what each other needs and what that time frame looks like. So for me, it's immediate, and
right.
So I took those couple of days off.
Mm-hmm. And I knew that, like, I was going to need, actual time off to physically go through the miscarriage. And so I decided to continue working until we had the miscarriage. So the week goes on. I'm just trying to get through it, processing it, but not getting emotional about it. Nothing happens all day Friday. We went on, field trips that Friday, and they were like outdoor environmental field trips. And my field trip was the Arboretum, which is not close to home, not close to the hospital I would have gone to had I begun having a miscarriage. And we were going to be on a bus going there. And so I thought I was starting it because I thought I was spotting that morning, and I was panicked. I'm like, I don't know if I should even go to the Arboretum because it's so far away. I'm like, Bobby can't come pick me up because I'm taking a bus there, and I panicked. So all day I'm like so worried it's gonna happen while I'm at the Arboretum. It doesn't happen. Go to the pharmacy. The doctor had already called the prescription in, which, by the way, she ended up being our preferred OB when we got pregnant again, and then she went on like a leave of absence. But I had an appointment with a different doctor who ended up being the doctor that decided that I was going to have Lucas that day, or that I was going into the hospital. But then I met this other doctor and loved her and started seeing her. So I took the medication. The prescription came with a prescription for oxycodone. So if that tells you anything. Took the medication before I went to bed, per her recommendation. Take it like right before you go to bed, and then overnight, in theory, will take most of the night to work, and then in the morning it'll start happening. I woke up at 3 a.m, felt terrible, had a lot of cramping. It got progressively worse really quick, to the point where I passed out on the floor in the bathroom. The pain was like that bad. And so Bobby had already taken his time to go do what he needed to do to process the loss. And
I mean, to the extent that you can in 5 days or whatever.
But he wasn't over it, but he was able to be more level-headed when it was my turn to need him. And I wasn't really able to be there for you because I just couldn't process anything.
Yeah, jerk.
Eventually, I was able to be there for you, but this is what we're talking about, individually and together. Individually, we were going through two very different things. I was physically going through something and emotionally, and I didn't know how to deal with them at the same time, so I decided to focus on the physical issue. I don't know what's happening.
Gus is bothering me.
He's moving, Gus.
Gus is bothering me. He's not, because he wasn't quite lined up at the edge of the thing.
Okay, well, nitpicky, spatial reasoning. So Bobby was able to be clear-headed enough to force oxycodone in my mouth, and
I mean,
not literally, take this. You need to take, because I didn't want to. I was like, no, I'll take ibuprofen, I'll be fine. He's like, you passed out because it was so painful. Fine. And it is. So, a miscarriage, it's basically like you're in labor, but it never stops. Now, having gone through labor, it's like you're in labor and it never stops. It's not like you have contractions and then there's time in between. It just is continuous contractions until for a few days, really. They do decrease in intensity over time once the tissue has passed. But anyway, so he had like a little thick cup of crackers and some water and some medication.
Now, I have been on oxycodone before.
I've never been on it before.
She had never been on it before. I know what it's like, and I know how many I should take. I just had you take 2 because that was what was prescribed, is 1 to 2, and I figured you passed out. It's probably that bad. Mm-hmm. You should probably take 2. Mm-hmm. This is one of those moments, and I'm sure we've all had them, where like something's really sad and upsetting, and you're crying, and for whatever reason, like you are able to settle down, and then the weirdest thing just becomes the funniest thing in the world to you.
Because you're high.
Well, for me, you being high was funny, yes. You're just sitting there laying in bed, these crackers are good.
No, I laid down and I think I said something like, oh, now I understand why they prescribed this for me. Like, because I was just like, okay, I'm relaxed. I feel like I can tell that there's something happening, but I'm relaxed. I'm not going to pass out from pain. And the crackers were delicious. And I'm like laying in bed eating crackers. Like, yeah. Anyway. So all weekend long, went through the whole process. Stayed home on Monday from work. And my colleagues knew this. It was really hard because right off the bat, I was very open about what was going on with me. And it was really hard to not talk about it, or to be very careful about talking about it in front of the students, because they're high school students. And at the time, the ones that I was working with were pretty young, like 9th, 10th grade.
And none of them knew at that point anyway.
None of them knew no, they didn't know I was pregnant anyway. But they, I was like, I don't know that I want to go there with them right now about this. Maybe someday I'll tell them, but right now, I did, side note, tell them. A couple of them, a couple of years later when they were seniors. And I think it was when I was pregnant with Lucas, or maybe before that, during health class, maybe. I think it was during health class. And I did tell them that like I had been through it before, and that I had a miscarriage, and they knew, and so they were very, very kind about it. And whenever the topic came up, when we got to the like pregnancy topic in health class, they were very like aware of me as I'm interpreting to make sure I'm okay, because I work with some amazing kids. And I also did tell 2 male students in health class about it. I don't remember why, but it came up. Oh, one of them asked me, have you ever been pregnant? And I said, yeah, I have. And they're like, but you don't have children. So I was like, I do not. And so I kind of, surface level told them what had happened. The baby died, So went through the miscarriage process, went back to work, was still physically not feeling the best for about a week and a half, 2 weeks later, which is normal. Was kind of in denial, like didn't really deal with it. Thought like this was like the worst thing that's ever happened to me, us. And I thought I had a handle on grief. I thought I knew how to grieve. And there's no right way or wrong way to grieve. Everyone grieves differently, but I definitely thought that I could just take a long weekend and then I could go back and I could function. I didn't really emotionally deal with it that weekend because I was physically dealing with it and dealing with some other things that were happening personally as well. And so about 2 weeks after the miscarriage, I had already signed up and paid for this event at my church, which was like a women's, they call it spiritual spa. I had already signed up for it. And I'm getting ready to leave. I'm kind of like, we're doing dinner or whatever, and Bobby makes an offhanded comment about the stove. And how like it wasn't clean enough, or how like you could see like the rings. We have a glass top, so it's a black glass top. It's a little bit harder to see when stuff gets stuck.
Rewind back to the very first time that we came on the air, and we talked about things that we hate about each other, but love each other anyway. One of those I would definitely add to my list. No, it's not that you're messy. Well, that was one of them that we talked about. Was just that like you don't see details that I see oftentimes,
and vice versa. Let's be clear. There are some things.
Which is one of those things that really frustrated me about the patio when we were trying to put that together, because I saw these little details that you didn't, and it just drove me nuts.
That's why we should have just paid somebody. Anyway.
Yes, we should have in retrospect. But yeah, and so I just mentioned that I was going to clean the stove because there was little spots on it.
And I'm like, well, I'm sorry that I'm not good enough I don't clean things good enough. Or something. I'm like, I'm sorry I'm a bad wife. I'm sorry that I this, and I can't even carry a baby right. And I just started sobbing. And I'm like trying to leave the house to go be with these women. And I just start sobbing, having a meltdown. And that was the first time that I had like broken down about the miscarriage. I had been emotional about it, but this was the first time that I like lost it. Go to the event, and I'm at a table with two of my closest friends who, I should also say, before we even started trying having children, fortunately, I have a lot of friends who have experienced loss of a child, miscarriage, stillborn, different places on the spectrum, and different ways, naturally, DNC, the medication, different experiences. And I was always sympathetic to them. I always tried to be a good friend. But I remember after we had the miscarriage, after I went through the miscarriage, I texted almost all of them. And I said, I am so sorry you went through this. This is terrible. Like, I am so sorry that you experienced this. Even though I said it when it happened to them, I was just like, I'm so sorry.
But it's a different level, because I hate when people say things like, well, you won't know until you have a kid.
Yeah. True.
Right? Because they always say it like that, right? Like,
do they say with that face, you won't know
until you have a kid.
Yeah. Right. And that is true of losing a child. You don't know what it's like until it happens to you. Which makes it really, really hard when you have people in your life that are...
The difference is, though, that sucks.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You just don't know how much it sucks. But it sucks for them, right? And there is an appropriate thing, there are appropriate things to say about that, right? Like...
Yeah, and I messaged, and all of my friends that I messaged, I said, like, I don't remember what I said to you. I don't remember if I said things that were actually not very accurate or appropriate, so I apologize. I don't remember. Maybe I wasn't as supportive as I thought I was, and all of them were like, oh my gosh, like, no. Like, I don't remember really either, but obviously we're still friends now, so it couldn't have been that bad. Which I did have that experience, and
which we may get to at some point in the future.
Yeah.
The Brovors /
friend,
I don't know, whatever.
The ending.
Whatever we're going to decide to call it for women.
The setting healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of friends that I could go to and talk to and get it out. Like, just talk about my experience. So I'm at this church thing. Two of my friends who have gone through it are with me, and another friend who had not gone through it but knew about it. And then 3 women around my age, maybe a little bit older, who had children who were older, like elementary school and up. And there was, I don't know, we were talking about something, or someone, one of them asked me if I had kids, and one of my friends was like, no, like, she just like jumps in, like, no, she doesn't. Like, they were trying to protect me because they knew that I had just gone through this. And one of the things they wanted us to discuss as a group was one of the most impactful ways you felt God in your life? Half the table, except for my friends, who were like, I'm not going to say this. The birth of my first child. The birth of my first child. The birth of my first child. The birth of... I mean, it was like, bam, 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 bam. And I'm just sitting here like, I don't know how much longer I can be here. I don't know. So that was an interesting experience. So I thought I had dealt with it. I decided, I'm ready. Let's start trying again, like a month and a half after it happened. And after the miscarriage.
Which I was very skeptical of.
Because you thought, and you were probably accurate, that I was just trying to hurry up and replace the baby. Not replace the baby,
but
like forget.
Move on.
But to like hurry up and you're pregnant again, so I'm happy.
That would somehow fix the problem.
Right. And that's probably what was happening. So we tried for a couple of months, and I realized that I was not ready. That I was trying for the wrong reasons. There's a dog behind us. And so we kind of like were on and off for a while, trying. So I don't want to say it took us 18 months and we tried every single one of those months, because we didn't. If we're being honest, we didn't, for various reasons. I was out of town 1 month when I was ovulating. That's impossible. Cannot try. We were building a patio 1 month.
And we hated each other.
I wanted to do not nice things. Yet we hated each other. And so that wasn't happening. And
we were just really fucking tired.
Well,
like, okay.
All day building a patio.
I wish I could find a picture of it. I don't have one sitting around somewhere. If I could show you, we're not talking about patio pavers that are a couple 4 pounds a piece, right? We're talking about very large, I think they might be like
huge
ceramic or whatever stones that are, like bigger than a large monitor.
Like I couldn't lift most of them by myself. They were heavy and big. Most
of them I had to... There were some that I couldn't lift on my own.
We had to use a wheelbarrow to carry a lot of them. Yeah.
So we were just tired as fuck too, people.
We were. But it did get really frustrating. Because I was getting older. And I was in like some months, my cycle got all screwed up. And anyway, so like during all of this, we had lots of conversations about grieving the loss of our baby. And I became really, really open about my experience on social media. Through that, I had several people message me who either didn't know anybody else who had been through it and was so thankful in like I'm not alone, not like oh, thank God you went through it. So it sounds weird when you say that about being thankful to know somebody else who's gone through it.
But it's somebody else who has experienced that terrible thing that you can talk to about it and, for lack of a better term, commiserate with.
Yeah, for sure. Because every experience, they're all different. Like, they're not the same.
You don't want to just approach somebody in the blue and start talking about that, because that might alienate them.
Right.
And so it's not weird at all for someone to go, oh, good, I have someone to talk to about this.
And people in your family had messaged me privately telling me their experiences, and you're like, I had no idea.
Cousins mostly, yeah.
Yeah, and an aunt. We had no idea. Because here's the thing that's really crappy about infant loss. No one talks about it because there's so much shame associated with it. Shame of, I am a female. I was born a female. My body, in theory, in the original days, was built for one reason: to reproduce and put children on this earth. Like the way that my body is set up to do that. And I couldn't do that. My body couldn't do that. So there's this sense of failure. There's a sense of shame around loss, miscarriage, whatever it might be. I mean, I don't want to speak for the entire world of women, but it's 1 in 4. So I guarantee you, if you don't think you know somebody, you do. Because there's a lot of women out there, a lot of couples that have gone through it. Women who have physically gone through it. Maybe there's couples who were doing surrogacy or some, you know, and the surrogate lost a baby. I mean, someone has been through it in your world. But no one talks about it. It is very personal. But I don't think that it should be something that we're made to feel that we shouldn't talk about. Or that, like, if other people are uncomfortable talking, if I bring it up, or if it gets brought up and I'm comfortable to proceed with the conversation, I shouldn't have to stifle myself because someone else feels uncomfortable about my experience. It's like, I lost a baby. It's terrible. I wish I had that baby. I would have a 2-year-old. We would have a 2-year-old. And that sucks because we had talked about, we started planning this trip to Disney for my 40th birthday with my best friend and her family for our 40th birthdays. And we would have been bringing a 5-year-old with us, or almost 5-year-old. And we were talking about it when I was pregnant or trying to get pregnant. I can't remember. So, yeah, so we, you know, talked about it a lot. There were times, was it during that 1.5 years? I don't remember when I had this kind of like moment of pause. Do I want to have, no, it was before I got pregnant. It must have been before I got pregnant. Do I really want to have a baby? Or am I doing this because I feel like I should, because all my friends have kids, because everyone says I'll be a great mom? Like, why am I wanting a baby so bad?
So, let's talk about that for a second.
Sure.
Because and this is a little bit of a tangent, a little bit of a departure, but there is a lot of societal pressure out there for people. Oh, when are you getting married? Oh, when are you getting,
at the wedding.
People, if you're out there and you've been dating for a long time, I guarantee you've had 800 people go, well, when are you guys getting married? Right?
When you have kids.
I'm guilty of that. We harass some of our friends about that all the time. Right?
Do it.
Guilty.
My brother.
Yeah. The same thing is true of kids. When are you guys going to have kids? Okay? We know several couples that just aren't having kids, and that's like, okay.
Right. They're like, that's not what we want.
At one point we talked about that. At one point we talked about, are we okay with just at the time 3 of us, because we had Nemo.
Yeah.
And we had this conversation about, why do we feel like we want to have kids? Do we actually want to have kids, or do we just feel like we're being told we should?
Right. And then at some point, it took a few days to really really sit with it. And at some point we were talking, I was like, yeah, well, when we have kids? And he's like, did you hear yourself? You said when. I said, oh, I guess I want one. So let's proceed. And there were definitely times when we were trying in the 18 months between pregnancies where I was like, is it worth it? What if it happens again? We had talked about that. If we got pregnant again and I miscarried again, would that be it? Would we be able to go through more than 2 miscarriages?
And quite frankly, for me, the answer was no.
And I was like, I just want to keep going until we have a baby. Like, I will keep going through it until we have a baby because I want a baby. Because at that point, I was committed. I knew that I could get pregnant. And I did not believe that I would be able to get pregnant if I wasn't supposed to have a child. So I, was like, no. I said, we'll deal with that if it happens, is what I said. And it's interesting because, like, after the miscarriage, I don't know. Both times that I was pregnant, I had this weird, like, intuitive insight. It's very strange. When I got pregnant, a friend of mine said, "Are you sure you really only want to have one child? Or you only want to be pregnant once," is what she said. And I said, "Well, I'm probably only going to have one child." And I thought it was interesting looking back on it that I chose to phrase it that way. I was pregnant when I said that with Gus. And it was just kind of like, did I always know that I would maybe not keep Gus? Like, that we would never get... It was very strange to me. And I had some weird intuition and weird insight things with Lucas too. Specifically around having to have a C-section with him. I got force. It was the force? Stop it.
No.
No. You're weird. So after I had the miscarriage, I did try to find resources to help me through my process. Not force my process, but to help me really have to grieve. And I read a book, and now I can't remember what it's called. I have it upstairs. That I found really helpful up until the last 2 chapters, which got real preachy to me, and I was like, I'm good with this book. I'm done with it. But one of the things it said was something that helped the author deal with her miscarriage was to, knowing she wanted to be a mother, knowing she wanted so badly to have a child, in between time, to take that mothering energy and put it towards someone else and not hold it and be like, I must put this on a baby, I must hurry up and get pregnant, but to take that energy and use it for something, which for me ended up being my work, which could be good or bad. I developed some really amazing, strong relationships with students that I work with, and kind of took that energy and used it in my work, which was good for me. Can we just talk real quick about the phrase, everything happens for a reason also? It's bullshit. I think people say that when they've not really experienced hard things. Do I believe that there could be...
Ew.
What? Do I believe that me not having Gus... Yeah, oh, thank you. I'm like, what? I used my energy for the kids? What? No. You agreed with me when I did that. Yes. I do believe that because I didn't have Gus, there were things that I was able to do and be part of that changed my life, that were amazing, that I would not have been able to do if I had just had a child, or that if I was pregnant. Now, of course, I would much rather have my child than that experience. But I was trying to see that, I did get to do something really awesome. If I didn't get to have a baby, I still got to do something really cool and be part of something really cool. So, 18 months later, we went on vacation to Vegas. And not everything stays in Vegas. And now we have a 6-month-old. I was on a podcast last October when I was in my 3rd trimester. I do want to talk about this because I think it's a really important resource. It's called the Life After Miscarriage podcast. And I was referred to the host of this podcast. Her name is Shelly Metling. She's from Minnesota. A coworker of mine's daughter knew her, and mentioned her to me when I had posted about my miscarriage. And so I started following her on YouTube, and she was doing a YouTube journal of her journey to get pregnant again after having 4 miscarriages. She now has 2 adorable little boys, but she decided to start a podcast to talk with women across the world about their experience with loss and how to not let your life stop forever. So for those of you who maybe feel like you just need to listen or watch or do or read or whatever, it's called the Life After Miscarriage podcast. There's so many episodes. I don't remember the number of my episode, but I know that it was in October of 2019, and it's titled "Not Everything Stays in Vegas." That is the title of my episode. I mean, I am thankful that we are here and we have a son, and that our second pregnancy, as we in the Life After Miscarriage world call it, stuck. It stuck, and it was like a banner pregnancy. Every appointment, I was so on edge. Not really aware of it, but like very sippy, very leading up to it. And snippy.
Oh, I thought you said sippy, like sippy cup. Like,
well, I might as well, since you said it. Snippy. And then I go to because there's always that anxiety in an appointment that I'm not going to hear the heartbeat. The first time we heard the heartbeat for Lucas was like, I mean, I just like lost it, because we never got that before. So, or actually, we didn't hear it. We saw it.
No, we didn't. Yeah,
we saw it because it's not as easy to hear when you're. I think I was only 7.5 weeks when we had the ultrasound, because I had spotting. Did I have spotting? I did have spotting again. So I was like, I had spotting at the exact same time in this pregnancy. So of course, panic, right? Anyway, so so every appointment, I was just so anxious leading up to it, because everything was going great. Everything was perfect about my pregnancy, about Lucas. Everything was perfect. But every appointment, panic, anxiety. And then I would relief eat afterwards. I would eat even though being pregnant, I was like eating smaller amounts, because that's just kind of what you do when you're pregnant. I would just inhale so much food, because I just felt so much better, that everything was fine, normal, great. So what I will say about going through a miscarriage is it definitely shifted our perspective on like our plans for our future, because they were kind of screwed up after that. Because we had always said we wanted 2. Now we have 1. I'll be 38 in August. He's pretty set on 1 and done. I'm still struggling, because I feel like we're supposed to have 2. We should have had 2. So why don't we just try and have 2? So I'm still kind of, so the miscarriage still affects me now, because I'm still like, but we should have had 2. So why, let's have 2. So I don't know. Stay tuned. I'm pretty sure we're going to have just the 1, but that's what's happening in my head because of the miscarriage, because I should have had Lucas.
You're shitting on yourself.
I'm shitting on myself. Lucas should be our second Earth side child, not our second pregnancy. He's our rainbow baby. So there's that. And he's great. But it is hard, having been through a miscarriage, knowing people who have gone through miscarriage who maybe still don't have a child on Earth, or who are trying and going through some really hard times trying to get pregnant. I feel like having gone through the loss and knowing what that feels like to be around other people who are having babies after you have a loss, I find myself being a lot more like I censor myself a lot more when I talk about Lucas, or I try not to talk about him too much in those situations. which I'm not sure if I should be doing, but it feels like I should. I don't know. So that's, again, this is how this will affect me for the rest of my life, because I will always miss that child. I will always wish that we had that child here. And it will always affect my perspective on being around people who have gone through loss. So I spent like the whole show talking, which I knew you said I was probably going to, but
yeah.
Do you want to add any more things to this conversation?
Yeah, I mean, okay. I understand that this is a very personal topic and it affects everybody differently. Mm-hmm. That said, when you found all of these outlets, when you found these other people that were talking about it, when you found this podcast, it was a huge help to you.
Yes, it was.
And coming from the background that I have, where I went to school for family therapy, like I get that. And so, please, people, if you're whether it's this, whether it's something else, I will get to that in a second. Talk about stuff, okay? You mentioned shame, right? There's a lot of shame around that. Like, you did something wrong. And you know, like our doctor said, you could have been jumping out of an airplane doing coke, and that wouldn't have been the reason that the baby died.
Right, because typically early first trimester losses are chromosomal issues, or that the embryo did not implant in the right spot and just had nowhere to grow, which is probably what happened.
So
with Gus,
talk about stuff. Yeah. Whether that's publicly, I get it. Not everyone wants to do that. Not everyone wants to put their personal life out there like we do. Mm-hmm. Totally fine. I get that. But find somebody, find a friend, find a therapist, find somebody to talk about that kind of stuff with. Yeah. Because the more that it is talked about and the more comfortable people become talking about, the easier that becomes for people to deal with that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. On that note, we almost didn't stream tonight because there is some stuff going on in the Twitch world. There are a number of people who decided to do a blackout today, where essentially they said, we're not going to watch Twitch, we're not going to be on Twitch, because there are a large number of sexual assault allegations with either Twitch streamers or folks in the Twitch community or associated with streamers, like management companies and talent agencies. What?
I mean,
people who manage other,
like
big Twitch people.
I don't know who they are.
We decided not to do that, and after talking to somebody who was on stream today, a woman who was talking about it, and the title of her stream was, "Isn't silence how we got here in the first place?" So, yeah, I mean, I think especially, and that's another thing you said, shame, right? Like, a lot of people who experience sexual assault feel shame, like they did something wrong, like that was their fault.
Not pretending to know what that's like, first of all. Let's be really clear. But, like, right, I just want to be really clear that we're not trying to be like, you feel this way. We don't know, but, like, we've heard that there is the feelings that you might be going through something like that.
But, again, talk about it. Mm-hmm. Talk about these things. Again, whether that's a therapist, whether that's a friend. And I get it, in these cases that we're talking about right now, there are fears of repercussions of like people trolling you, retaliating against you. In the day and age of the internet, there's fears of people doxing you, all sorts of stuff, right? I get that. But don't let that just fester, right? The more that festers, the more people that do that kind of shit think they can get away with it.
Mm-hmm. And, I think there was a point after the miscarriage where I felt bad that I wasn't talking to you more about it. And we did talk about it. Obviously, we both went through this. We've had conversations about the miscarriage. We've had conversations about what our life would look like with a 2-year-old. There were a lot of people in my life. I say a lot. 4 or 5 people in my life who I'm super close to, or that I'm regularly in touch with, who had babies when I was supposed to have mine, who were celebrating 2-year birthdays when I should have been celebrating mine. And that's, I still get triggered. I still have hard times. I still get sad about it. But because I found these communities, because I opened up about it and then had people in my life that I went to college with that I, was in a sorority with, or that I knew mutual friends, messaged me, and like I've not become like super good friends with them, but like I've reestablished a relationship with them because of this really, really crappy common ground that we have, common experience that we have. And it's been really, for lack of a better word, amazing to have that happen. And it, like I said, it's a crappy shared experience. But because we have chosen to talk about it and be open about it, we're able to find the support from others who have also been through it. Because as much as you and your partner, like, are both going through the experience of no longer having that baby, because the second you get that pregnant test, you're planning their life. You're thinking of names. Oh, if it's a girl, who will they look like? Will they look half Asian? Like, you have all these thoughts and these dreams, and you literally start planning their life because they're here, they're real. And then they're gone, and you never got to enjoy that life or see what was going to become of that life. And so, yes, you and your partner go through that mutual loss, but, and I don't want you to have to go through this, your partner didn't physically go through it. And that is a completely separate experience from the emotional experience. And so being able for me to have that communication with other women in my life who have experienced some level of miscarriage loss has helped me a lot to kind of commiserate about the physical and the emotional, but specifically the physical part of it that you'll never know about because you don't have the parts. You don't have the parts to go through that. And that's probably the hardest part for me to try and I could never explain to you. I could never explain it to you because, again, you don't have those parts. You never had period cramps, so it's not like I can't even like try and relate. So yes, talk about things, even if it is with a friend, even if it's with a parent, even if it's praying. I don't know. I'm preferably with someone who's going to answer you back, but like it doesn't have to be. You don't have to put your life out there like we do. I mean, that's just the kind of people we are. We're open books, but if anyone out there is watching, whether I know you or not, like needs to talk to somebody about their miscarriage, like reach out.
Where can they find you?
Right in this chair. This is the only place you can find me.
I mean, it's fine. Like my social media shit's down there.
Uh-huh.
Like feel free. I'll get it to her.
Yeah. I'm on Instagram. I am Sarah with an H, Sarah. That's super important. Sarah E. Flu, PFLUGH on Instagram. And on Facebook, I'm just Sarah Flu. And you can... Yes, that's correct. Yeah, I don't love to talk about it, but I love to be able to support other women who are going through it. Do you want to like say anything more about your experience? I feel so bad. Like this really was just about me.
I mean, no.
I mean, you did talk about when you went through it, but
yeah. I mean, there's not much else I can say, honestly.
Right. Because I mean,
it sucks.
It's crappy.
It sucked. It still sucks.
Mm-hmm. It's still hard. It's not like I cry sometimes when I talk about it. I went an entire hour without crying about it. It depends on the day. But, had we not truthfully do whatever you want to do with your life when you get married, if you want to get married, have a baby right away, do you. I am really thankful that we waited a while before we had a child because I think that, or got pregnant, because I really think that helped us be able to, even through the times when it was really hard to communicate, to eventually be able to communicate and support each other through this experience. Because this is the first time we've experienced a loss where neither one of us could really rely on the other one, because we were both experiencing the grief simultaneously. And like, the person who was supposed to be your rock, your support, your source of everything was as broken as you. And that was
and that was hard to acknowledge, because at one point we talked about that and you openly said that, and I was like, what the fuck? And then I realized, oh yeah, she's not wrong.
Right. Doesn't make you bad. It just literally means you're going through the same thing at the same time, and you can't do anything but deal with your stuff before you can even try to support the other person. So he might have been mad at me at first, like he said, that I like was so like indifferent leading up to the actual miscarriage. But I was the cool, calm, collected while he was not. And then he was when I was not. So, I mean, yeah, talk about it. Talk about your shit, man. Don't hold it in, because it'll come out in all the wrong ways. So, we don't have a preview for next week. We don't. We got up to like this topic, and like we don't know what else to talk about.
We've been talking about this topic, for 3 weeks now. We've been saying, we're going to talk about it.
Here we are.
We've also been talking about, we're going to talk about the Brovorous. I think we kind of just have to do it. We have to
might do that next week.
We have to talk to somebody, because it involves their personal life, and obviously we don't want to disclose more than they want us to. So we want to be respectful of that person.
So that may be next week. But if not, we'll find something else to talk about. We might just sit here and just talk about random stuff. I don't know. I don't know. We don't have a preview. I'm sorry. But look out on social media, or ask us if you're not on socials.
Or if you're like, hey, you should talk about whatever, or what would you do with this thing, let us know.
Let us know. We will entertain the ideas and see if we have enough content.
We oftentimes start in different places and end up mostly in the middle after long conversations about things. So.
Yeah. Fair. So with that said, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.